Hello everyone, I am Clara. Welcome to Clara's Story Garden, your cozy escape into the world of enchanting paranormal romance. Sit back, relax, and let the stories sweep you away. Everyone always assumes that if a vampire and a werewolf can't fall in love, it is because we are natural enemies, our two species being so different. There is some level of truth to this misconception. Vampires are cold, calculating predators, skilled in the art of manipulation, which makes our wolves wary, and we wolves are seen by them as unrefined creatures, no better than wild animals. So you'd think our opposed nature was the root of the issue, and it's what I used to believe too. Except it isn't. There is a very real, though hardly ever told, reason why a vampire and wolf can't be together, and it has nothing to do with misconceptions and stereotypes. This is the story of how I, Selene Archer, found out about the truth much, much too late. Present day. Towering arrangements of midnight blue and blood-red flowers line the pathway leading to the great doors of the Blackwood mansion, their petals almost luminous under the moonlight that bathes the elegantly decorated garden. Long gown trailing behind me, I make my way to the entrance, keeping my head down as I try to ignore the vibrations of my phone, while mine is hidden inside the small purse I've been allowed to bring along. It just won't stop buzzing, and I put it on silence except I worry about attracting attention. How dare a human look at her iPhone in a moment like this? Besides, I know exactly who's calling, and I can't even stand to look at his name on my screen. Not now. I try to pinpoint the scent I was specifically trained to find amongst the crowd. It's difficult, the smell of decay sticking to most vampires being pungent here in a crowd full of them, though I cannot let my unease show. I cannot let anything show. Why is this one not accompanied? I hear a woman say before I see her, pointing a well-manicured finger towards me with a perplexed frown. Well, there goes not attracting attention. I pick up my pace, glancing at my surroundings, hoping to spot a familiar face, but with no luck. I'm alone amongst predators, and they've unfortunately noticed. Two vampire men dressed in impeccable suits are suddenly in my way, towering over me. It doesn't help that I'm particularly short, a fact no high heel was able to cover. "Where's your master, human?" one of the vampires asks with a kind, attentive smile, which doesn't match his cold, calculating stare. I bite my lip briefly before remembering that drawing blood is the last thing I need to be doing right now. "Around here somewhere, I'm sure," I reply with a polite incline of the head. I then proceed to move away, but my efforts are immediately thwarted. "Stay where you are." Upon hearing the words, my movements immediately feel weighted, like my entire body has been draped in lead. Just my luck that I managed to attract the attention of a vampire skilled in the art of compulsion. Very few of them are anymore, and this one isn't the most skilled I've encountered, but he's not the worst. His command takes effect over me as I freeze in my tracks. It's what a regular human would have done, and I can't let anyone know I'm no regular human. "She isn't particularly pretty," one of the vampires observes critically. "No, she isn't," his friend replies with a smirk. "She's probably not very important. I doubt anyone will miss her." I gulp. They're not entirely wrong, and while I have no doubt I can get myself out of this mess safely, doing so without blowing my cover seems less likely. I am the worst double agent in existence. This is my first cover-up event, and I'm already seconds away from blowing it. A hand reaches towards me, and I'm debating what to do when a familiar voice cuts through the tension. "What do you think you're doing?" The tone is bored and indifferent, yet my attacker immediately freezes, and inches away from my face and suddenly looking like he's inches away from death. Lucien Blackwood is moving towards our little group at an unhurried pace, his presence all elegant grace and lethal smiles as overwhelming as ever. "My prince," one of them says, inclining his head. "Do you know this girl?" Lucien's blue gaze descends upon me, making me gulp. For a moment, it looks like he's going to deny it, but then, I should hope so. She is my bride -B after all. My shoulders sag in relief before I remember I shouldn't have been able to move at all. Quickly catching on, Lucien sends me a warning glance. "Your bride." The vampire interrupts himself, sending his companion a wary look. "My apologies, my prince," he says with yet another bow. "I wasn't aware you'd chosen a bride." Lucien doesn't gratify the man with an answer, making the vampire look like he swallowed something particularly sour. "Please, feel free to move, my lady," he tells me with a sheepish look, freeing me of his compulsion without taking his eyes off them. Lucien takes my hand in his and leads me away from my aggressors with such poise. You'd think nothing particular had just happened. But then, as we were about to enter the ball, he brings his lips to my ear. Did one of them touch you? His fingers clench around mine, betraying deceptively well minus hidden anger. His face couldn't be more impassive though. No, they didn't, I reply, confused. Good. My mind draws a blank. Why is he asking me this? Why would he even care? It's not like we're actually together. I don't have time to think about it as we enter the ballroom under the appraising gaze of this country's entire vampire elite. Try not to trip again, Lucien whispers, leading me down a flight of stairs. That happened just once, I grumble. Dressed in a silvery gown that cascades around my feet, intricate lace clinging to my arms and shoulders, I feel every bit the parody of the princesses from my childhood stories, as I'm abruptly pulled into the lap of my prince. Like I'm nothing more than cheap entertainment. The truth is, he is not my prince but my master, and the vampire court gathered around us tonight, whose eyes have been following my every step since we arrived, have ensured I did not forget it. Disdain and mockery are evident across every single gaze I receive. Ice-minus gold fingers travel up my thigh, left bare beneath the daring slit of my gown, and a low, sultry voice whispers into my ear, for crying out loud, Selene. This is supposed to be sexy. Can you at least pretend like you're a little into it? How do you even know how I look? You're sitting behind me, I counter, going for assertive but failing miserably. I don't need to see you. You're as rigid as a statue, Lucien complains against my neck, like the petulant man-child he is. You know, I'm beginning to think you don't find me attractive. He isn't baring his fangs yet. His teeth graze my skin, and it takes all of my willpower not to squirm in discomfort as I attempt to focus on anything but his body pressed against mine. One would have to be blind not to find him attractive, and he very well knows it. Practically since we'd met, he'd started making a show of flirting with me, finding my embarrassment highly entertaining. My gaze travels around the mansion. Tonight's ball is being held in a setting reminiscent of a lavish court from a forgotten age, and amongst all this elegance and excess was an infinite crowd of vampires, sipping blood politely from crystal cups, or in some cases, the throats of the living. A shiver runs down my spine as I imagine myself in their place. This could be me soon. Everyone here expects it after all. Relax. Lucien brings the inside of my wrist to his lips for a kiss. I promised I wouldn't bite, didn't I? I gulp. He did promise, but Selene, Lucien's arms tighten around me, people are watching, and you being close to tears is suspicious. I bite my lip, feeling even more nervous at the words. I know everyone expects a certain behavior from me, namely fang-girl-level grateful at being allowed to sit on the great Lucien Blackwood's knees, but it's hard to pull off when I feel nothing of the sort. Sorry, I mumble. I didn't mean to embarrass you. Lucien scratches his throat expectantly, making me frown. Oh right. I didn't mean to embarrass you, master, I correct myself. I don't think I've managed to make the title sound as adoring as I should, but at least it wasn't laced with the disgust I feel. Good girl, Lucien grins, giving my upper thigh a firm squeeze. It takes all of my willpower not to yelp. If someone had told me only a few days ago that I, Selene Archer, would become a vampire's bride, I wouldn't have believed them. To the calculating predator devoid of emotions that is a vampire, nothing is more prey than his chosen bride, paraded around by their master vampires as glorified living blood bags. Brides are there for their masters to feed upon in exchange for formidable wealth and status. Don't get me wrong, I hate the concept, and I'd never thought I'd end up on a vampire's arm, serving as his bride. I was raised to fear this world with good reason. I am a werewolf, something no one at this horrifying pretense of a party can ever find out. Come, Lucien says abruptly, pulling me after him, his presence spotting the crowd like a dark ship cleaving through a sea of bodies. We're going to dance. His long fingers are cold against my back, though not as cold as his icy blue gaze. The music swells, and I put a hand on his shoulder like we practiced, following the steps I've only recently been taught. Eyes are on us, some envious, some calculating, and others pitying as we execute this mockery of intimacy. I think we should rather keep a low profile, I object as he dips me towards the ground. We're too exposed. Everyone is staring. Lucien flashes me a brilliant smile. Comes with the job. I sigh. Lucien might be used to the spotlight, but I'm not liking it one bit. For under the brilliant lights and amidst the swirling gowns, the monsters at this party wear no masks. How did I end up here, one might ask? Only a few days ago, I was still patrolling the streets of my town, fighting vampires. And now I was dancing the night away in a ballroom full of them. 10 days ago. You're late, Ela Kane tells me instead of a greeting when I find her in a dark street corner, half an hour past our rendezvous point. Her reed hair is tied back into a severe minus-looking ponytail, and her dark sports clothes couldn't be more casual, yet she somehow still manages to look like a supermodel. However, her good looks have nothing to do with her being the beta of my pack. She's one of the strongest and most cunning wolves I know. Sorry, I mumble, looking for an excuse because the truth just won't cut it. I thought you were going to pull a fin, she sighs, heading for a crossroads at a hurried pace. I trail after her, trying to figure out what she means by that, but mostly relieved about not having to justify my delay. I'm not good at lying. You mean you were afraid I wasn't going to show? Ela smirks. No. I thought you'd just be hours late, drunk, and accompanied by a hooker. I bite my lip, weighing my words. I know Finn isn't the most reliable member of our pack, but I doubt he'd ever do that to Ela, and not just because she's our leader's second minus in minus command either. Still, I'm sure you'd feel better if he were here instead of me, I mumble apologetically. Ela tenses as we turn a dark corner. I'd feel better if Ethan was feeling better, she grumbles, avoiding giving me an answer. That mating bond of his has been a real nightmare. Ela has had to handle most, if not all, of Ethan's alpha duties ever since he's been mated, which hasn't been easy for her. Being an alpha gives a wolf almost limitless authority over others, a tactical advantage Ela hasn't benefited from by proxy ever since our leader's been down for the count, though that's hardly Ethan's fault. He needs some time to recover, I argue. When he broke his bond, it almost killed him. Mating bonds are sacred to us wolves, and once one is formed, it's extremely rare to see it being broken, as we rarely survive the separation. It's true for regular mating bonds, and even more so for fated bonds, like the one between my alpha and his mate, Leela. Yes, well, you broke your bond with your fated mate, and I don't see you on the brink of death. Ela puts a hand on my shoulder, giving me an affectionate look. I'm proud of you, you know. You've been incredibly strong. Guilt twists my heart, and shame finishes what's left of it. If only she knew. If I'm doing so well, it's only because my mating bond is far from broken, like she and everybody else in my pack believe it to be. How could they begin to suspect I'm still very much bonded to the most hated rogue wolf in the region? If my alpha doesn't kill me upon finding out I'm still with Caleb, my pack's disappointment will. I'm about to reply when a muffled scream pierces the air around us. Passers-by don't react, but that's because they're humans who do not have enhanced hearing. What was that? I ask Ela. It came from behind us, she says, glancing over her shoulder. Shouldn't we turn? I ask, feeling my wolf itching to claw its way out, like it usually does in a dangerous situation. Not now. We'd only attract attention. Ela's expression is calm and collected, her movements quick and efficient. Could be just a basic aggression. It was a woman's cry. I remind her. We're still helping, right? Might as well. As we erupt into the back alley of a club, more muffled sounds echo into our ears, growing closer. There, I exclaim, pointing towards two figures hidden behind a fire escape. A woman is being pinned to a wall by a clouded figure who quickly reveals itself as a vampire when it turns around, baring its fangs. I wince, my fears coming alive in front of my very eyes. So the rumors are true then. Vampires have begun attacking humans again, Ela snaps warningly. Or what? The vampire asks. I'm not very used to seeing vampires, although he's not the first one I've ever encountered. Like all others of his kind, there's a hypnotic tint to his voice, which sounds pleasant despite the threat the creature poses. His features are twisted in an unnatural snarl, but I bet he'd look gorgeous if he schooled his expression. All vampires are attractive, it helps them lure in their prey. However, there are thick, cloying notes of decay tinting his scent. Vampires may be beautiful, but to our wolves, they smell of death. Kind of ruins the appeal. The blonde woman being pinned down is trying to speak, but her words are muffled by her captor's hand, though we quickly guess what she was trying to say when a second vampire emerges from the shadows with all the eerie grace of a big jungle cat. They wolves, the newcomer says, wrinkling his nose. Smells like wet dog for miles. You're breaking the accords, attacking a human, Ela reminds. Let her go. The accords? The one holding the woman growls. We didn't make the rules, and we're done following them. Ela and I exchange a wary look. This isn't good. The Accords, which have been signed a century ago, are essentially a peace treaty binding vampires and werewolves to major rules: don't attack humans, and don't make me come here and bite you. Ela warns, giving the vampire a hardened stare. A werewolf bite induces a transformation into one of our kind, except very few are those who can survive the turn, and no vampires ever have. Essentially, we bite them, we kill them, which is why the Accords forbid it. You wouldn't dare, the vampire replies, baring his sharpened teeth, making Ela smirk disapprovingly. A bite from a vampire wouldn't kill us, though it only seems fair that if we can't do it, neither can they. The vampire who'd been holding the woman hostage drops her to the ground and runs towards Ela in a poor semblance of an attack. She takes a mere second to parry. Vampires are quicker than us, but they aren't as strong. They rarely have the upper hand in hand minus hand combat, especially when faced with a skilled fighter like Ela. The same can't be said about me. When the second vampire comes at me, I barely manage to avoid his arm and dodge to the side, losing my balance in the process. My attacker seizes the opportunity and pounces, pinning my arms to the ground. His fangs are inches from my face. I retaliate by head-butting the vampire's nose, making him screech and loosen his hold. My arms freed, I quickly grab my attacker by the throat with one hand, ready to punch with the other. But then, Mira's face flashes before my eyes, twisted in fear and covered in blood. I choke, frozen in place. Selene, I hear Ela scream, but it sounds far away. I can't move. The vampire is pinning me back down again. I let him, feeling all the air has left my lungs. His body is suddenly lifted off me, and I expect to see Ela's face above mine, but it's my attacker's vampire friend who's come to my rescue. Feeding discreetly is one thing, but if we get caught, we're done for, he says. This isn't worth it. Let's get out of here. Why would we get caught? My attacker frowns. Because there are 2 wolves here, and at least one of them looks competent enough to live to tell the tale, the vampire replies, pointing towards Ela, who's crossing her arms and clenching her jaw. Reluctantly, his companion moves away, giving my beta a wary glance. Whatever. The king will soon be dethroned, he warns, walking past us. We'll have our fun, dogs. Ela barely raises an eyebrow at his words, watching them leave while I hurry to the blonde woman's side. Are you okay? I ask her, helping her to her feet. I'm trying to think of some excuse to explain away all she has just heard. It's best humans don't know about the supernatural world. I'm fine, the blonde replies, scrubbing her clothes. Are you? She indeed looks and sounds fine, if a little miffed. You'd think she didn't almost get bitten by a vampire. Selene, Ela joins us, putting a hand on my shoulder. What happened back there? I stubbornly avoid the pitying look I know she must be giving me, one I'm used to receiving but still cannot stand. I don't deserve her pity, not after what I did to Mira, not after what I'm still doing with Caleb. My eyes meet the blonde's clear blue ones, and my wolf immediately tenses. This woman we just rescued is no ordinary human. I can tell she's not a vampire, and she isn't a wolf, but a dangerous aura emanates from her nonetheless. You're a witch, Ela guesses, assessing the woman much more quickly than I have. The stranger nods. Thank you for your help. I am now in your debt. She doesn't sound very pleased though, which is making me uneasy, and I give her a tentative smile. Don't worry about it. You don't owe us anything really. The witch sends me a thundering look. That's not how it works. I collect debts, not the other way around. My higher minus-ups will not be pleased, she says, glancing at her feet. Why are you looking down? I ask, confused. Because that's where they are, the witch replies lightly before settling her calculated gaze onto me. You'll both get a wish free of charge. Ela and I exchange a confused glance. Wait, are you that witch who lives in town, the one that grants favors? I grant favors for a price, the witch replies, staring at her nails with a frown. And trust me, they never come cheap, although I leave it up to the customers to decide whether the price is worth it or not. Ela scoffs. Please. I bet you avoid reading them the fine print. If that's what you choose to believe, suit yourself, the witch shrugs. Your wish will come for free. No fine print, no price, no consequence. Anything you want. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Anything we want. Except killing people or forcing them to fall in love, surely. I ask with a frown. The witch looks confused. No, I can do that too. Why, would you like someone dead? She asks me. I shake my head, heartbeat tracing at the idea of having that kind of power. We're not interested, thank you, Ela says, grabbing my hand. Come on, Selene. Are you not? The witch crosses her arms. I can read Doris, you know. Yours screams unrequited love. Ela's face becomes as red as I've ever seen it, leaving me speechless. She's usually not one to show much emotion, so seeing her so flustered feels even more surprising than having a witch offering us our dreams on a silver platter. We're going now? Ela stammers nervously. Thank you, but no thank you. She pulls on my hand and drags me behind her while I take one last glance at the witch. I'll be seeing you soon, she says, like there's no doubt about it. And she ends up being right because I was about to make my wish that very night, changing my life for the worse. For making the wish was what would lead me straight to the nest of vipers that was the vampire court. Present day at the ball. My dance with Lucien ends abruptly, my head spinning from all the swirling steps I had to execute but also from the stress of having to monitor the entire ballroom for any threats while doing so. And Lucien wasn't any help either, criticizing my every step in between shameless flirting attempts. I had a hard time pretending didn't work on me. He's supposed to be my one ally here in this strange, dangerous world, and yet he couldn't be less reliable due to his innate incapability to take anything seriously. To Lucien, life is one long, seamless joke, and the fact that someone's very intent on ending his early doesn't faze him in the slightest. He just can't seem to comprehend the notion of danger. This guy's facial hair looks suspicious, Lucien mock-minus whispers, pointing to a nearby vampire's mustache. Do you think he's the killer? All ability to fear and any form of intelligent thought. If I wasn't so desperate, I would have fled the vampires a long time ago, like my wolf keeps urging me to do. But ever since making my wish, I've been, in fact, particularly desperate, and hiding amongst the vampires is the best solution I can think of to escape the predicament I'm in. Well, I've done my fair share of parading you around, Lucien says, letting go of my hand. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go get ridiculously drunk. I grab onto his arms and trail after him, only slightly tripping along the way. He's ridiculously tall, and I've often been compared to a dwarf, granted, mostly by Lucien. Still, he has a point. I thought vampires couldn't get drunk, I mumble, trying to keep up with his hurried step. Don't remind me, Lucien sighs dramatically. I still intend to try. Feel free to join me. Who knows, you might actually end up having fun. He pretends to gasp while shaking me off his arm, though I grip at the limb as tight as I can. You having fun? Can you imagine? 'Cause I really can't. Stop it, I grumble as he tries to move away. I have to stay by your side. Lucien scratches his throat again, giving me a pointed look. I sigh in resolve. I have to stay by your side, master. Lucien beams at me. It'll be safer, I conclude, slightly distracted by his bright grin. Safer for who? Lucien rolls his eyes, snatching a glass of blood from a passing waiter and bringing it to his lips. You're so twitchy. One would think you're the one needing my protection. I grimace, trying to shush him into being more discreet. I get that he's not very confident in my abilities as a bodyguard, understandable, given that he doesn't know I'm a wolf. Still, he agreed to this arrangement so he could be putting a little more effort into the charade. If he didn't want me around, he should have said so when we'd signed the contract with his grandfather present. I regret not seeing Victor Draven at tonight's reception. He, at least, seemed to somewhat believe in me. Blondie? Lucien points to my forehead. With all this frowning you do, you're going to be prematurely wrinkled. And nobody wants that. A painfully beautiful young woman with long raven hair and clear blue eyes approaches us. Her walk reminding me of an elegant panther, graceful in its lethality. I've never met her before, and I'm struck silent by her flawless beauty, only accentuated by the splendor of her shimmering dress. She puts a hand on Lucien's shoulders and places a delicate kiss on his cheek. They seem well minus acquainted, despite Lucien's obvious displeasure at her arrival. Could she be an ex-girlfriend? She looks only slightly younger than him, in her mid-20 like I am. Selene? Lucien smiles so brightly it looks forced, meets Serafina, my mother. I do my best to execute the customary curtsy I was taught only a day prior, while hiding my astonishment. This young girl is Lucien's mother. I best remember not to assume anything about age when meeting a vampire. It's impossible to know how old they are. Lucien may look like he's in his early 30s, but maybe he's 10 times that age. Serafina briefly glances at me, though she doesn't bother with any form of greeting, and goes back to addressing her son. Your bride, she asks with the barest of frowns, although her words are laced with disdain. My love, you really should have let me pick one for you. I had plenty of perfectly suitable candidates lined up, and you had to go and pick that. I school my features into a neutral expression, as I'm not allowed to react to anything a vampire throws at me. It's against the rules, and ever since becoming Lucien's bride or bride -B, since the ceremony has yet to take place, the rules have been drilled into my brain by the forceful, ever-efficient staff of the Blackwood family estate. However, none of them has been as strict and insistent as Eleanor Voss, the head intendant. Shortly after having been hired by his grandfather and meeting Lucien, I had been taken to my own penthouse suite within the luxurious hotel. I was staying in an insane labyrinth of rooms, all more breathtaking than the next. But I barely had time to appreciate any of it, as I was almost immediately joined by an entire staff of people, exclusively human, and tasked with preparing me to meet my future husband. Do not ever call him that, Eleanor had snapped with a sour expression. Should the bridal ceremony take place, which I can almost guarantee won't happen, as I'm certain the young master will have regained his senses before then, you'll do well to remember you are not his equal. Your role will be to serve him. I had nodded, trying my best to take everything in while being groomed from head to toe. One man attended to my light blonde hair, which he claimed was too short, while a young woman hurriedly stuck extensions onto my eyelids. Darling, your nails, a third party had groaned. How dare you walk around with nails like these? I was never expressly told what was wrong with my nails because there had been too much to do. I was, according to all those experts on good looks, a shipwreck. We have 2 days to teach you some basics before your first outing with Master Lucien, Eleanor had explained as she tried to get me to fix my posture, an impossibly difficult task, if she was to be believed. Should he keep you around after the ball, which he won't, we'll meet together every day to pursue your training. We can't let just anybody attend to the young master's needs, can we? So, should he keep you around, which he won't, I had surmised. Indeed, you'll be given proper etiquette training, how to walk, talk, dress, converse amongst the vampire elite. There's an elite? I'd asked, curious. Eleanor had given me the most disdainful glance I'd ever seen. The Blackwoods are the elite, young lady, and I'll be damned if you aren't taught well enough to treat them according to their rank. A part of me still found all this extravagance slightly ridiculous. Amongst wolves, there wasn't really any notion of class, though I suppose that wasn't entirely accurate. We did have a hierarchy, more or less strict depending on the pack, but my alpha, Ethan, isn't particularly bossy, or at least not with me. Despite him being quite influential amongst our entire community, I just tend to forget because he's like an older brother to me, and so there isn't need for any decorum around him. Meanwhile, vampires, it seems, have an intricate class system and interact much more with humans than we wolves do, essentially considering them as slaves. To say this doesn't make me very comfortable would be an understatement. But right now, there wasn't much I could do or say. I'd made my bed, so to speak. If I was going to survive the inextricable mess I got myself into and hide amongst the vampires, I was to do it acting as Lucien's bride while secretly trying to prevent whoever was after him from killing him. Somehow, God, if I hadn't been doomed before, I was certainly doomed now. There was no way I, the most desperately disappointing omega wolf of the region, could save a vampire from a danger even his grandfather, one of the eldest and most powerful vampires alive, could make sense of. 1 week ago. Well, I'll be leading the negotiations, Ela reminds me as she drives us across a large, crowded boulevard. I nod, expecting nothing else. I'm still stunned she accepted to take me along to meet with a vampire king, though desperate times call for desperate measures, I supposed. Ela couldn't deny Victor Draven his audience, and it wasn't safe for her to go alone. But with our alpha unable to attend and Ela's usual backup missing for account, I'd been assigned the job instead. The city, with its ceaseless motion and cacophony, is a stark contrast to the quiet, orderly life I'm accustomed to in our small town of Grimace Wood. Unfazed by the sheer volume of people and the endless streams of cars, Ela's bright green eyes are sharp and focused. I, on the other hand, find my senses bombarded at every turn. Though I'd never had as much control over my wolf as Ela, she's the very definition of control. Our destination is an opulent hotel nestled among the city skyscrapers like a grand old monarch. It is here, in a suite that probably costs more per night than my entire monthly expenses, that we are to meet the Vampire King. I stare, dumbfounded, at the luxury that envelops us. It's not like our pack isn't well minus off, but the hotel lobby here is something else, a vast expanse of marble and gold, with chandeliers that sparkle like stars captured within glass. Draven's staff greets us with a politeness that borders on reverence, guiding us through the corridors with the ease of those accustomed to catering to the whims of the powerful. The suite, when we finally arrive, is nothing short of astonishing, with a panoramic view of the city, now alight with the vibrant colors of night. I wondered as we waited for Victor Draven to make his appearance, what sort of man thrived in such a place. It's nighttime. He should be here soon, Ela grumbles through her teeth. She's trying not to show it, but I know she's nervous. This meeting has to go well. We just can't stop every new vampire attack from happening. It isn't sustainable. We need a vampire king to reign in his people, like he's supposed to. Good evening, ladies. I can tell the vampires we'd rescued the witch from a few days ago weren't near the same caliber as Victor Draven when the man finally decides to make his grand entrance. He's a classically handsome man in his mid-50 seconds, with marble-like features and a bright smile that doesn't have an ounce of warmth. He's fascinating to look at, graceful in his movements in a way that's almost predatory. It's hard to look away from him. There's something hypnotic about the way he moves, fascinating and yet terrifying. A shiver runs down my spine, my wolf telling me to run. His scent is enticingly sweet and pleasant, almost sickeningly so. There's something nauseating underneath it, though the smells of death and decay. Ela Kane, he says, giving her an appraising look, you're even more beautiful than I remember. Ela inclines her head politely. And who's this? Victor adds, turning towards me. I was expecting your infamous Alpha to come along instead. Ethan's indisposed, Ela says tightly. He's been recently mated. Really? Draven gestures for a staff member to bring him something aid or cred liquid. I realize it's blood as he pulls it towards his lips. I wasn't aware these mating bonds of yours were such an impairment, at least not for an alpha as renowned as yours. He says this lightly, pleasantly, but with a hardened edge to his words that can't be mistaken for anything other than a threat. His bond is a fated bond, I explain, feeling defensive. Not only do I not appreciate anyone belittling my alpha, I myself am part of a fated pair, something few other wolves can really understand, it being so rare. In all, it's no excuse for forgiving Caleb over and over again after all he has done. But, fated pair. Draven's eyes glisten in interest. Sounds fascinating. I would love to meet your great alpha's little mate. Tell him to bring her to me next time, won't you? I'm sure Ela would like nothing more than to tell him off, but she nods evasively instead, probably wise not to tell an important vampire alpha would rather die than let his mate near him. Why did you want to meet with us, Mr. Draven? She asks politely. Straight to the point, aren't we? I like that. Draven pauses to drink another sip of the blood before going forward in a neutral tone. I would like to strengthen my relations with your kind. I'm aware some of the vampires in the area haven't been particularly well behaved as of late. That's a rather subdued way of putting it. Draven hasn't done a thing about the increase of vampire attacks these past couple months, and the entire werewolf community is pissed. Tensions are escalating, and he very well knows it. You might say that, Ela replies neutrally. Draven smirks. I could ensure they're kept in line. In fact, I'd love nothing more than to do so. You know I'm rather good at that sort of thing. Ela nods carefully. He is, or rather he was, which brings the question, what changed? It's just, you see, I've been rather busy as of late, Draven says airily, looking at his nails, with rather pressing family matters. Ela looks only very slightly surprised. I wasn't aware you had a family, she comments pleasantly, though I'm sure she feels nothing remotely pleasant at the prospect. I have a daughter, the apple of my eye, Draven replies with so little emotion. I briefly wonder if he's being sarcastic, and she herself has a son. He's very recently been turned, and he's a little mercurial, you see. I wonder what he means by mercurial. Is your grandson the one behind the attacks? Ela asks coldly. Draven laughs. Oh, dear, no. Lucien isn't like that. He is a Blackwood after all, and my heir. He's perfectly civilized. But for some reason I cannot begin to fathom, seeing as he is such a delight. Draven scratches his throat before pursuing. Someone seems dead set on having him killed. Ela frowns, looking confused. Someone's trying to kill your grandson, she repeats, processing the words. And you have no idea who it could be. None? Draven confesses with a pained wince. In fact, I can't be certain if the culprit would be satisfied with his demise, or if it's our entire family he or she is after, which is why we elected to hire extra security. I don't see how this concerns. Ila's eyes widen in understanding. You'd like someone from our pack to become your grandson's bodyguard. Precisely, Draven exclaims, grinning like a cat. We tend to hire specialized humans for the job, or sometimes other vampires, but Lucien's been attacked twice now, and his mother is becoming somewhat paranoid. Her theory is that the job could have been ordered by someone from the inside, which is why a neutral party, someone who isn't usually part of our world but with the physical enhanced capabilities for such a task, seems ideal to me. Ila and I exchange a look. I can't tell what she's thinking, to be completely honest. You're the one I had in mind for the job, Draven tells Ila. I know you're an influential member of your pack, and rumors of your great beauty have not been exaggerated. Ila grinds her teeth. I'm flattered, but there's no way I can leave my alpha's side right now, she replies honestly. That's a shame. Draven takes another drink. To be completely honest with you, I think this assignment could be beneficial to both our people. I've got a hunch that the ones responsible for attacking my family could be the same people encouraging vampires to go after humans. You have a hunch? Ila challenges with a dubious expression. Yes, as you know, my family has tremendous influence over this country's various vampire clans. We've always played a major role in ensuring peace is kept with the humans and the wolves. Ila nods, conceding to the fact. My belief is that someone is challenging our authority, going after us and weakening our influence by encouraging rogue vampires to misbehave, putting us on the spot. I'd like the wolf looking after Lucien to not only keep him safe but to help me investigate who could be encouraging these attacks. I think back on the vampires Ila and I had stopped only a night prior. One of them had claimed that their king would soon be dethroned. Upon hearing Draven's input, it now seems likely it was him they'd been referring to. I will speak with my alpha about finding you the right candidate, Ila says, inclining her head. I can already think of a couple names that seem right for. What about you, pet? Draven interrupts, eyes snapping to me. I blink in stupor. Is he really talking to me? Me? The weakest wolf in our pack. Not her. Ila interrupts, giving me a look. Selene seems perfect to me, Draven says. She's a wolf, she's part of your pack, and you brought her here, so I know she must be competent. Ila is trying to maintain her composure, but I can tell it's difficult. Selene is very young, she tries, and besides. Draven interrupts, never taking his eyes off me. She must be mated. Ila's face gives her away. I am mated, but she doesn't think I am, and it shows, and I'm not about to tell her otherwise. Neither she nor anyone in our pack can find out I'm still mated to Caleb. I gulp, just thinking of what would happen if any of them, especially my alpha, was to find out, betraying him like that or everything he's done for me. She isn't mated. Draven clasps his hands. Well, that settles it then. You're hired, he tells me confidently. I don't know what to say. On the one hand, I'm not remotely competent enough for the job. As Draven said, he'd want someone like Ila, one of the most powerful werewolves in our pack, if not the country, and it's clear she doesn't want me to accept, as it would surely reflect poorly on all of us if I were to fail. But on the other hand, this could be my chance. If I worked for the vampires undercover, Caleb would be unable to approach me without creating a huge diplomatic incident. This would buy me some time to figure out the terrible truth. I'd learn it after making my wish to the witch. This is a 1- and lifetime opportunity, Draven teases. I won't offer again. Thank you, Ila says. Getting up, I will find you a suitable candidate and get back to you. Let's go, Selene. But I ignore her. He says he won't make the offer again, and I can tell he's being serious. There are plenty of other shifters around he could ask, except it has to be me. What I discovered upon making my wish, I can't let it happen. Selene, Ila insists, get up. Let's go. I'm in trouble and need to stay away from my mate, and I can't ask my pack for help, not without telling them how I betrayed them, not without dragging any of them down with me. I see no escape, none apart perhaps from the one Draven is unknowingly offering me. You're really offering me the job? I ask Draven in a small voice. He smiles at me in a way I try to convince myself is kind. Of course I am. He takes my hand in his, it's icy cold. In fact, I feel better already knowing you'll be looking after my daughter's pride and joy. You said he was recently turned and mercurial. We all know that's code for dangerous and unable to refrain his urges, Ela shouts, affronted, but Draven ignores her. What do you say, pet? He asked me with a sardonic smile. I feel cold, but not as cold as I did only 3 days ago after making my wish. Being a vampire's bodyguard can't be worse than the consequences awaiting me. I accept, I declare, squeezing Draven's icy hand. His smile spreads wide. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and subscribe for more beautiful tales. Tap the next thumbnail to continue your journey.